Welcome into Razorback Stadium, everybody. It's Nick Walters here with Madison Fitzpatrick. And Madison, not a lot of style points tonight in Arkansas's 38-27 win over Missouri State. The Hogs trailed 17-0 in the first half, making it 17-14 by halftime, eventually getting going in the second half to ultimately win. But Madison, there were a lot of flaws in Arkansas's game tonight that a lot of Hog fans out there would be frustrated about against an FCS team of all teams here at home. So what did you see that made that run possible in the second half?
Yeah, well, really, it was a game of momentum. You know, Arkansas didn't have the momentum first half. Second half, end of the third quarter, we have a big sack by Dominic and Jackson, and then right after that, another sack by Sanders. And then that ultimately led to Bryce Stephens' 82-yard punt return, and then that gave Arkansas their first lead of the game. And I think that instilled, the confidence in Arkansas that they needed to just take it from there.
Yeah, Bryce Stephens' punt return, 80-plus yards. That electrified this crowd, but for the most part in this night, the crowd, it was a jam-packed one, but a very quiet one because they saw their Hogs losing to an FCS team all the way until the fourth quarter. So just being in there in the press box, how do you see the atmosphere of this game evolving from start to finish?
Oh, 100%. I think they said there were 73,000 people here. I mean, sold out crowd, and they were a little quiet, but I think, when they could see Arkansas start to get that momentum, we got a few touchdowns under our belt, they started to get louder, and I was noticing the continuity of this entire place is amazing. The pig suey, and then all just the combined effort of the crowd, I think, really fired up the team and made that win possible.
I know this was not the blowout a lot of Hog fans would have expected, and maybe we would have expected walking in here, but it is Madison Fitzpatrick's first time ever at a Razorback game, so it just means more in the SEC, right? I know you went to Florida State, so it's a little bit different. However, a lot of fans will question the Hogs after this disappointing performance through the entirety of the game until they could get hot, when we had runs by Rocket Sanders and the punt return by Bryce Stephens and that final touchdown by KJ Jefferson to really add some pad to their score. But to come only 11 points ahead against an FCS opponent in this stage where you're at home and you have all the expectations in the world, you're now a top 10 ranked team, and next week you play A&M in Arlington. So what was your takeaway from how the Hogs played?
Yeah, well, a lot of the times, you're ranked number 10, you're playing a team that you should easily beat. That pressure a lot of the times gets to the team that has the upper hand, and the underdogs kind of just rise to the occasion. You see that a lot in sports. One of my takeaways was, even though KJ Jefferson, I think he threw 19 for 31, he still got 2 touchdowns and he used his feet very well. KJ Jefferson ran for 40 yards, and then obviously Rocket Sanders came up huge tonight. I know he always does for this team, but 167 yards, and that's a pretty good win by him. And I think he instilled the confidence in his team as he started to pick up, make those long runs. Then the Razorbacks started to pick up their pace.
Yeah, Rocket Sanders, the SEC's leading rusher so far in the season, he had a big impact in this win, but it wasn't all offense because the defense, they slipped up early on in the game and continued to do so in the second half, but they came up big when it mattered most. What did you see out of that unit?
Yeah, well, it definitely took them some time to get going. Like in the first half, Missouri State's offense was just slipping through their fingers. It seemed like they had a really hard time making those tackles. But into the second half, I don't know what Sam Pittman and his coaching staff said to them, but they kind of lit a fire under their belt. We had Drew Sanders, 12 tackles, 5 solo, 2.5 sacks that came up at really big times. We had Bumper Pool, 9 tackles, 2 solos. But Dominic, one of the players that I think did the best, he had 7 total tackles, 3 solo, 2 sacks, but those 2 sacks came at really integral times. One was going into the half, and then one was right before Stephens' 82-yard punt return, giving them that opportunity to score. So I think the defense came up big when they needed to. They just took some time to get there.
Yeah, broken tackles, that absolutely plagued Arkansas tonight. It was all over the field, very evident from start to finish. They have to clean that up, and clearly this is a secondary that is missing Jalen Catalon for the rest of the year and missing Miles Slusher until next week. That showed tonight. They need Slusher back to give some solidarity back to that defense. However, Drew Sanders coming up big. Obviously, as he always does, Bumper Pool having a big impact at that middle linebacker spot. But elsewhere on the defense, I think that the pressure on the quarterback was so important. What we saw tonight is Jason Shelley, the Missouri State quarterback, being a dual threat all throughout. Now, if you remember back to Cincinnati and the South Carolina game, Arkansas has not faced a dual threat quarterback so far this year, and it showed he'd be wiggling out of pressure and getting the ball downfield when really in past games it would have resulted in a sack or a loss of yards. So, but this defense rallying the troops to only hold Missouri State to 27 points when at halftime it was 17. How important was that for the win?
One of the defensive players that I saw really standing out was Simeon Blair. between every single play, he was going up, high-fiving his teammates, jumping up, screaming at them, getting them, just pumped up for the next play, trying to get them to be aggressive. And I remember Sam Pittman was talking about him. He said, even though, he wasn't one of our starters at the beginning, he's really stepped up when the players have gotten hurt, and vocally at practice and in games, he's been huge.
Yeah, Catalan out for the season, and it was Simeon Blair who was able to be a captain in his place, and you're seeing why with that kind of sportsmanship and supporting his team like that. However, on the offensive side of the ball, we got the receivers making some action tonight. Jaden Hazelwood, the transfer out of Oklahoma, getting a touchdown and many other catches. We saw Matt Landers have a big impact in this game. Arkansas loves to spread the wealth ever since Traylon Burks departed between Jaden Hazelwood, Matt Landers, and others, including Trey Knox, who had a catch tonight. So what did you make of the passing game for Arkansas?
Yeah, so there didn't seem to be any favor tonight from KJ Jefferson. He kind of, as you said, spread the wealth. We have Landers with 123 yards, Hazelwood 86 yards, 1 touchdown, and he had a 38-yard catch to get the touchdown at the end of the second quarter. That was huge. They were still trailing 17-14, but it got them that much closer. Sanders, the 73-yard touchdown, he just rocketed, like they say, just took off so fast no one could catch him, and that got Arkansas 24-27, just keep inching closer until their defense lit the fire under the offense belt, and then they could, take the lead.
Yeah, it was a tough win to get over a team that we didn't expect Arkansas to have many troubles, though. So there were some bright spots, but you would expect even more bright spots when you're playing a team that is in the FCS, and I know they're led by Bobby Petrino, so there's a lot of motivation on their squad. I'm sure Coach Petrino came in with what he thought was the perfect game plan, considering he's coached here, and he was more motivated than ever to do it, but still, only an 11-point win over a team like Missouri State is not going to give a lot of pollsters or maybe even Razorback fans a lot of hope going into a gauntlet of an SEC schedule starting next week. Of course, Texas A&M, they've had their troubles in the past. They just lost to Appalachian State last week. But how did this near loss at the end turn to a win impact your confidence in this team heading to Arlington next week?
Well, a lot of the times you see good teams need this throughout their season. They need the shock. They need, just a wake-up call. Hey, we're going to beat Texas A&M, and we're going to come in and we're going to beat Alabama. We cannot play like we played tonight. So I think a lot of the times there's silver linings in games like these because, the coaching staff, they see areas they need to improve on, and then the players, they get that jolt that, hey, we need to step it up, and we can't let things like that happen again.
Yeah, no doubt about it. In the wins and losses, it's a dub, but obviously, like I said, not a lot of style points in this one. We're about to go into the time of year where it's prove-it time for Arkansas facing A&M, Bama, and then so forth going ahead into the SEC schedules. But Madison, what did you see tonight that maybe the team can improve on the most that allowed for Missouri State to get in this game and be leading for almost in its entirety throughout?
Honestly, just big picture, I think that Arkansas needs to start sooner. They need to be more aggressive from the beginning. Their defense needs to dial in. They missed too many tackles in that first half, and their offense just wasn't clicking. So I think just from the beginning, being more focused, making those plays, and not taking any team for granted.
Yeah, 38-27 Arkansas over Missouri State. We kind of thought it would be a cakewalk, and maybe the Hogs thought so too throughout practice, maybe having one of their eyes already toward Texas A&M, but in college football, as they say, any given Saturday, and we almost saw that tonight. However, with Missouri State leading all through the game until 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, that Bryce Stephens punt return gave Arkansas the lead, and they would never let it up, going on to win by 11. A lot of things to improve. They'll get Miles Slusher back next week, but hopefully it's all up from here, and as Madison said, it's a learning lesson for Sam Pittman's squad. All right, well, it's Nick Walters here at Razorback Stadium, Madison Fitzpatrick, and we'll see you after the break.